Meta hit with record-breaking $1.3 billion fine over Facebook data transfers to the US.
Here's a summary of the article.
Meta has been hit with a record-breaking $1.3 billion fine by EU data regulators, and ordered to stop transferring the Facebook data of EU citizens to the US. EU courts believe such data transfers expose EU citizens to privacy violations, a complaint that stems back to 2013 and revelations by whistleblower Edward Snowden about US mass surveillance programs. The ruling was made by Ireland's Data Protection Commission, which said that the current legal framework for data transfers to the US did not address the risks to the fundamental rights and freedoms of Facebook's EU users and violated GDPR. The fine exceeds the previous EU record of €746 million levied against Amazon in 2021 for similar privacy violations. Transferring data to the US is critical for Meta's vast ad targeting operation, which relies on processing multiple streams of personal data from its users. Last year, Meta said it would be forced to consider shutting down Facebook and Instagram in the EU. It wasn't able to send data back to the US, a warning EU politicians saw as an obvious threat. Although Meta has now been ordered to stop these data transfers, there are a number of caveats that benefit the US social media giant. Second, there's a 5-month grace period before Meta has to stop future transfers, and a 6-month deadline to stop holding current data in the US. Third, and most important, the EU and US are currently negotiating a new deal to transfer data that could be in place as early as this summer and as late as October. Meta itself described the fine as unjustified and unnecessary in a blog post written by Meta's president for global affairs, Nick Clegg, and the company's chief legal officer, Jennifer Newstead. The company stressed that it's only one of thousands of companies that use similar legal frameworks to transfer data.
This post received a score of 52,000, with an upvote ratio of 95%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
History of this. 1. EU legal case about data privacy makes its way to top court. 2. Court confirms that the data transfer instruments US companies were relying on were illegal under EU law. 3. Companies warned to stop transferring EU user data to the US using those instruments. 4. Companies given grace period. 5. Meta ignored warning repeatedly. 6. Meta fined large amount of money less than we are here.
What happens if they ignore the fine and refuse to pay?
The EU goes after their European assets and eventually bans them from doing business in the EU.
Which would cost Meta a fuckton of money. So they're gonna pay that fine.
That fine is still not significant in Meta's scale. They have revenue of $115 billion. I was hoping for more. Edit. Please note that the investigation lasted 10 years and then note the fine per year.
Probably 60% of that revenue is from outside the EU, if not more. And revenue isn't profit. Profit is smaller, obviously. Fines are meant to be painful, not take you out of the market. A serious cut on the margin for the EU market will be painful.
Funny how if an individual messes up badly enough, the state has no problem bankrupting them and throwing them in prison. Why are we so afraid of killing corporations that get too big and too greedy?
EU counties, actually by and large don't give you impossible fines and throw you in forever. Their prison systems are actually much better than in the USA.
For example, felony fines in Germany are calculated based on your assumed daily income.
Not assumed, you have to submit your last 3 wage slips for the calculation. And then the court decides how many days of fines you pay.
God, I love the EU for things like this. It seems the only governmental body left that is willing to actually stand up to big corporate.
In many ways, the EU is closer to what America's founding fathers envisioned for the USA than what we have in present-day America.
Like they say, a terrible company can change its name but it will still be a terrible company. In fact, Meta is now worse than it was as Facebook.
It was comically obvious what Facebook were doing when they flipped everything over to Meta branding immediately after being exposed of massively unethical practices. When a company responds to such controversy by treating it as a branding issue, and not a ethics and values issue, you know history is doomed to repeat itself.
It's like if Jason Voorhees switched from a hockey mask to a baseball helmet and then tried to fit in with the summer camp.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.